Howdy, y'all. We're just going to wait for other people to join the Zoom. So I want to give a couple more minutes to get everyone into the webinar. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. First up, I'm just going to go over some general rules. So this is a Zoom webinar, so you won't have access to any of your camera or your microphone during this session, but you can use the Q&A feature to ask any questions you may have, and we will get them as host, and we'll be able to answer those throughout the webinar. Also, the chat function is also there if you need to talk to us as well. You can go directly to us. Also, just for your information, this session is being recorded and will be posted onto YouTube later on today. And then it will also be live streamed on our Facebook page right now. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself and our presenter. My name is Chapman Cooper. I am the Assistant Coordinator for Family Programming here at Texas A&M. And we also have Melanie Monroe, and she is going to introduce herself.
Howdy, Melanie Monroe. I am actually class of a long time ago now, 2001, and pleasure to be here with all of you, hoping to give you some insight to our new Aggie One Stop office. New-ish, we're a little bit over a year old now, but excited to be here.
Yes, so this presentation is going to be mostly a full presentation for 25 minutes about the Aggie One Stop office. And then we're going to go into a Q&A session. So I have about 15 minutes of that. So we're going to go ahead and get started. There is their information. I guess, Melanie, you can talk about it as well.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chapman. Again, Melanie Monroe. I have been with the Aggie One Stop since the beginning, which was January was a year ago. So we are located in our General Services Complex building here on campus. Phone number right there, 979-847-1787. We have an email, obviously, Aggie One Stop, all one word, at tamu.edu. But please do visit our website, aggie.tamu.edu. Much of what I'm talking about can be referenced and found on our website. And without further ado, I think we could go ahead and jump in. There's a lot of information to cover in a short period of time, and want to be able to allow some time for some questions. But as mentioned, Aggie One Stop, it's a newer office. It's not been a new concept, or it's been a goal of the university for some time to find ways to improve students' experiences here with enrollment services that they need. And so we're excited to finally open our doors for students starting in spring of 2022. We remodeled space here in our General Services Complex building. And our office is comprised of staff that came from, and I'll talk about the offices later, but partner offices that joined together to create this Aggie One Stop experience. So we're cross-trained across all those areas and offices. We have several peer advisors, student employees, student workers, also here working with us, which it's vital for the success of our office. You know, we rely, and our peer advisors are amazing, so I can't give them enough credit. But we also, again, the reason for this was to try and avoid having students to have to go across campus to maybe see financial aid and then go to the billing office in another area, or visit the registrar's office, or, you know, there was just a lot of different places and people that students sometimes would have to talk to coordinate some of their enrollment services needs. And so this was an opportunity we're excited about, to be able to bring all of us together. Some of us came from these partner offices and cross-train across all the disciplines. And now we can sit with a student and we can provide those services all at one time. Next slide is partner offices. So I referenced that. So we work with our admissions offices, the registrar's office, scholarships, financial aid, which include military education benefits, and the student business services offices. So our staff, again, referencing back, our office was Aggie One Stop was created with staff that came from each of these offices into the Aggie One Stop, bringing expertise from those different areas and then cross-training heavily across those areas. Next slide. So our one stop, again, I would encourage you, if you have not, aggie.tamu.edu, you want to go there. We have a live, a chat bot, Miss Rev, that you can also ask questions and get answers to a lot of your common questions. When is the billing due date? When can I register? So it'll give you information, you or your students, information on some of those common asked questions. Go ahead and next. I want to point out on our website, the contact us, we have a contact Aggie One Stop form. And so oftentimes we get emails about admissions, all those registrar, billing, SBS, or student business services, financial aid questions. It's really helpful if we could collect enough information to be able to help those that are reaching out. Sometimes, we don't have enough information about the name or the student's ID, things like that. So by using this contact Aggie One Stop, it'll prompt and be able to help gather some of that information that will help us better respond more promptly to your questions if emailed. Our hours of I wanted to point out one thing on the hours of operations. We are open Monday through Wednesday and Fridays from 8 to 5 in person. We do close the phone queue at 4:30 just to make sure we have time to wrap up those calls that are in the queue before leaving for the day. Thursday mornings, we are closed between 8 and 11. We are here, but we are doing trainings, receiving updates from all those partner offices, things of that nature. So we are here in the office answering some emails and getting our trainings in, but then we do open back up for in-person and phones at 11 o'clock. And again, till 5 with the phones closing at 4:30. Okay, now, sorry. So how can Aggies contact us? Well, you can contact us, with the chat bot with Miss Rev. That's one way to contact us, because there are times if Miss Rev can't provide you an answer or kind of stumped with a question that you're asking, it'll give you an opportunity to submit a question that would get emailed and forwarded to us. Walk-ins, we're available. We love it when folks come in to see us. The email and then the phones are obviously another option. Miss Rev, she is a smart, how do we call it, artificial intelligence brain that is filled with tons of information. And we are loading that brain with registrar content, billing, payment information, financial aid information, scholarships, military education, all that content that you might find on a website, but not sure where to go. This is where Miss Rev comes in handy, because there's a lot of times our staff use it. Even whenever we're talking with students, we are showing students, hey, let's look here and see what Miss Rev tells us. So I would definitely encourage, anytime that you have a question, I would try Miss Rev first. And again, if not, we have those other options for reaching out. Walking in. So again, I referenced, we're located in General Service Complex on the first floor. As soon as you walk in, there's a big desk that says howdy. So, and a lot of our peers are at that howdy desk, and they will check you in. Once you're checked in, we have lobby space for folks to kind of sit and wait to be called to one of our advisor desks. And typically what happens is they get a text message that says, okay, now you can come to desk 2 or desk 3. And that student gets prompted to come up, and then that's when they get to meet with the advisor and go through whatever it is that they're going through. It can be, again, I need to drop off a transcript. I took classes at Blend. I need to drop that off. Oh, by the way, also have a hold for student business services. How can I get that lifted? You know, those kinds of conversations can all happen at that desk with that advisor rather than going all to these different places on campus. Now we're in one spot. I will say that the GSC does open at 7:30 in the morning as far as the doors. So if students get here early, they can get in and hang out until all the other offices in the building open at 8. And then they do close the doors at 5. The bus is something that's nice because it's called the 12th man. It's bus route 6. It goes every 11 minutes is what we've been told between the Memorial Student Center on main campus and the GSC, because we're a little bit West Campus. So we have ample parking if need be, but students can, and in fact, our staff, when we have meetings on campus, oftentimes we'll hop on that bus and just head over to the MSC and go from there. So it's a really convenient option for our students. Okay. So email, I will say email is one of the largest volumes that we receive from our students and sometimes parents. So we are constantly having staff work on emails, responding to those. We do ask if you have a student here now, or if you're contacting or needing to contact, try to use and provide the UIN in those emails, because that does provide us with a good starting point when we're looking up students, especially if there's other students with similar names. Also, if it's a student, students should use their official A&M email, because oftentimes, especially if they're very specifically asking about something that's about their account, not just something in general, we have to be mindful of what we're putting from a security standpoint. We prefer to email them to their A&M email address. That is considered their official A&M method of communication with university officials. So we do want them to use that whenever possible. As parents, you don't use your student's A&M address to email us, but your student can copy you on those correspondences. And so I would encourage you to have them do that if that's something you're interested in. Okay. And the phone. So one of the things about phones is that there's a cool feature that instead of being on hold, because we do get a lot of calls, people will call, people will email, people will stop by. So the callback feature is one of the things that we like the best, because it holds your spot in line so that when your spot comes up, we will call, it auto calls you back. So our advisors that are taking those phone calls, so if you're calling and you can't reach and talk to somebody right then and there, it'll give you the option for a call back, and you can let us know what the phone number is by confirming it's either the number you're calling from, or if you got transferred to us, you would want to update and make sure you put your phone number in there. And then when your turn comes, we'll give you a call back. So I definitely use that callback feature. It saves that place in line, and you don't have to keep calling back trying to get somebody. Okay. So admissions, I want to talk a little bit about those partner offices and kind of some of the things that our staff can talk with students and parents about. So, you know, we're providing that kind of customer service aspects as students are going through that admissions process. We're not recruiters, we're not admissions counselors. We basically are advising on some of the processes, like deadlines, questions about how to submit the application. What are some documents that you are required to submit with your application? And then more importantly, emphasizing to the students that applicant information system, we call it AIS a lot of times. That's the website, applicant.tamu.edu. So if your student is an applicant or has applied, make sure they're monitoring their AIS system. Can't stress that enough, because that will tell any of the things that they still need to turn in. Even if they've been admitted, there's still things that they're going to have to turn in between now and the time that they attend their new student conference, or even attend in the fall. Okay. If we have parents out there that students have been admitted, this is just a quick shout out. Admissions wanted to make sure we reminded folks that the new student conference is the deadline to accept admissions offers is coming up. And by doing that, new students, undergrad students would need to make sure that they've signed up for their new student conference. There is it's a required conference. That's where they will register for their classes and meet with their advisors. So if there's any concerns with when's my student going to register, that's when they would be registering. There is new student family programs. There's an online pre-orientation that students will get. I think that's coming up here soon. I think maybe May 1st-ish, around that same time. So just be on the lookout for that. If you have a student that's been admitted for summer or fall, they should be getting some information about that. There is a bacterial meningitis requirement that requires documentation to be submitted. So there's information on that in that orientation. TSI, I do want to again reiterate, SAT, ACT, some of those test scores, while they were not required for admissions purposes, those are some of the things that could be submitted to waive the TSI requirement. TSI still requires students to meet certain levels of academic levels. And so if there's not a waiver of that on file by way of these test scores, then they may have to take this TSI test as part of their new student conference prior to that. So just kind of keep that in mind, even though they may not have needed it for admissions purposes, they would potentially need it if they want to waive the TSI requirement. Oh, sorry. So, and then final high school transcripts. So right now, it's not going to block registration, but even if they register this summer at a conference, say in June or July, come August, if we've still not received that final high school transcript, a registration hold could get put on their schedule or put on their record, and will keep them from making any adjustments, potentially keeping them from being able to make some changes to their schedule if they need to. So we definitely want to make sure those get submitted. Again, monitoring that at AIS portal, because the AIS portal is what updates to say whether it's still needed or not. AP test scores, get those submitted directly from the testing center. Excuse me. I think we usually see those start coming in July when they start releasing and sending those, but go ahead and get those requests in. College transcripts with final grades, and it says if applicable. A lot of our students, especially if they're still in high school right now, doing dual credits. Dual credit means that they're earning college credits from another school while still in high school. They will need to send that college transcript from that school that they're getting that college credit from. So just make sure if that applies, let's go ahead and make sure the student is sending those college transcripts to A&M directly, so those classes could transfer. Okay, I think we're going to move on to scholarships, financial aid. So as I'll kind of preface it from a new student versus a continuing student, but so One Stop, we do answer tons of questions and kind of your first point of contact. If you have some questions that you can't get answers to about financial aid in general, I do want to point out we have some dedicated financial aid advisors located in Galveston and McAllen Higher Education Center. And there is that link below the TAMUG is .edu/financial or FIN aid. Those can be used for both McAllen and Galveston. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is the reminders for admitted students. The financial aid portal is how the university communicates to students regarding the status, their financial aid status. If they've submitted their FAFSA, if it's been received, there's an icon in the Howdy portal when they log in that says financial aid portal. So they would want to click on that. They would want to go to the to-do, make sure they're monitoring the to-do list or the to-do items section to make sure that anything that might be needed would be listed there and that they're addressing that in a timely manner. Most of the time, if we see there's a delay of some sort with someone's financial aid, it's because there's things that still are listed under that to-do status where there's still some action that's needing to be taken. But then again, if there are still questions about what is needed as part of that to do, that's when, by all means, reach out so that we can kind of help. Same thing with current students. So as current students, they want to do the same thing because with financial aid, that's an application. The FAFSA is the most common. It's something you have to do every year, every academic year. And the academic year is a fall, spring, summer term, covers fall, spring, summer terms. So every year, usually around October, is when the new FAFSA application opens up. And so this is something families should consider doing every semester or every year. We're hearing that possibly it may be delayed because the Department of Ed is making some adjustments to the application. So it may not be ready by October 1, but I would suggest just monitoring the website, the FAFSA website, to see when they'll be making it available. They usually post updates the closer we get to that time frame. Again, normally it's October 1, but we're still waiting to see if that's still going to be the case for this year. Scholarships. So if you're an incoming student that was admitted, or you're a continuing student that has received scholarships outside the university, there's a donor form located on our website. You could provide that to the donor. They could fill it out. It tells them where to send the check or the funds, your information, so that they know when it's sent here who we're providing that scholarship money to. That's important. So I would suggest making sure providing those donors the form and having them fill that out when they're trying to submit the funds to the university. Other options for parents to consider if needed are the Parent Plus loans. That information also can be found on our website. As far as it's not a requirement by any means, but it is an option to consider and explore once the FAFSA has been submitted, and knowing what the students' awards are or offers are for the upcoming year. One thing to keep in mind that with financial aid, there's something we call SAP, but it stands for Satisfactory Academic Progress. At the end of each semester, we have to run an evaluation to see and make sure that in order to continue to be eligible for financial aid, the student has to be making satisfactory academic progress towards their degree program here. So that's something that's monitored. There's a GPA, also the number of hours that they're taking, and their ratio for completion is considered in that as well. So that's just something that's done every year. It's something that they would receive information via email and in their financial aid portal if it's something that they look like they may be on probation for whatever reason for SAP, because of maybe it's their first semester and they had to drop too many classes or didn't quite get the GPA that they were looking for. There's different stages of SAP before one might lose their eligibility. Okay. Military education benefits, as mentioned earlier, does fall under the umbrella of scholarships and financial aid, because they have to certify these benefits for the state, but they also certify the federal benefits with the VA. We have a lot of information on our website. Again, there's different types of federal benefits that are available that are listed, as well as the Hazelwood, which is specific for Texas. So if you have someone that's interested in looking at applying for the first time, there are steps for how to do that as a first-time student or first-time benefit user. And then there are also steps for continuing, because you have to continue requesting it every semester that you want to use it. We don't assume everyone's going to use it every semester, because there are different benefits can be provided to dependents. They can be used by the veteran themselves. So every semester we kind of have to know what your plans are in terms of how you want to use those benefits. So there's a renewal process that's as part of that financial aid portal. Again, it will tell you if there's things outstanding that still need to be submitted in order to be certified. So I would just encourage, if anyone is using those, to make sure they're visiting the website, looking at the different steps that it requires, submitting that documentation online in that financial aid portal, and then monitoring that portal regularly for updates. Okay. Again, we admitted students, that financial aid portal, that's where you would initiate your benefits as an incoming student. And again, referencing the website for those steps, depending on which, if you have questions about which benefit you can sign up for and request, those are outlined and listed on our website. So the registrar, Aggie One Stop staff, we can help students with their registration questions, explaining how registration happens, when registration happens, if they encounter problems. A lot of the more, I guess, most common problems are if they don't meet a prerequisite, they get an error message, and kind of helping direct them to perhaps looking at a different class, looking at it maybe even a different section of that same class. So that, but we can give them some registration, kind of a registration help desk, if you will, guiding them on how to resolve some of their the errors they might be experiencing, or alternatives to who to reach out to within departments to see if they can get forced into a class, if that's something that they're trying to get done. We also can give you information on how to order an A&M transcript. Students can order those through their Howdy portal, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they could be requested to be sent through a certified PDF email. They can have it mailed, and then we have a pickup option where they can order it, pay for it, and select a pickup to where they come into our office and pick it up. So all those are options that we explain to students when they reach out if they need one. Students also contact, and sometimes parents, for enrollment verifications for a variety of reasons. And so students can actually request their own enrollment verification or proof of enrollment through the Howdy portal. Again, self-service options are out there, and it basically says the student is full-time, half-time, or whatever the status is, based on what the student has enrolled in. And so sometimes we see parents might need that for insurance purposes, or I think some car insurances give discounts if a student is full-time and has a certain GPA. Those are all things that the student can request and or obtain themselves through the Howdy portal or by contacting our office. Okay. FERPA is something not just for admitted students, but if you already have a student here, FERPA is basically the privacy law that provides students with their rights and protections of their information. It also provides students the right to inspect their records and review their records. But one thing we want to make sure parents know is that the Howdy portal, there is a parent portal access option, and that's managed by the student. They log into their Howdy portal, and there's an option for them to provide access to parents to see. You won't see exactly everything that they might see, but things like their schedule. There's a place to sign up to be able to be authorized for billing, things of that nature. So that's something that you might could talk with your student about. You're only going to get access as long as they're a student here. You don't retain the access once they're not enrolled as a student anymore. But while they're a student, that may be something that you're interested in. The other thing that can be done to be able to allow parents to receive, certain information, say the enrollment verification form, for example, if the student files a certificate of dependency form, because FERPA basically says we can't provide information about the student without their consent unless, and there's some exceptions. One of the exceptions is if the student says that they're a dependent, claimed on their parents' income tax as a dependent, and they tell us that by filling out this, certificate of dependency form and submitting it for us. So if they do that, it gets routed to us. We log it into the computer, so that way it's in the system and shows, they put your name. It's a DocuSign form, so they would put their parents' name, email address, submit, routes to the parents. You would get an email, and you would basically hit submit by signing the DocuSign form. And then that gets routed to us. And then that way we would update the system to show you both, or one parent, either one, as being able to call in or email in about requesting certain information or getting certain information about the student. Also, registering for classes, a reminder again, a lot of new students don't realize they will register for their classes at their new student conference. Once that happens, every semester after that, they're considered a continuing student, and they'll participate in what we call pre-registration. And that usually happens early to mid-November for the following spring semester. And it also happens late March really late March or early April to register for the following summer and fall. So those are the big registration periods that the students have for pre-registration as a continuing student. Okay, next. So we do provide general information for the following topics. You know, we have a very broad knowledge base when it comes to residency, excess credit hours, tuition rebate, some graduation and degree plan requirements. The registrar has asked that because of the complicated, I guess, a lot of these are state statute type of regulations that they have to follow. So they do have staff in their office that part of their state policies team that is more versed in the details and all the intricacies related to them. But residency has to do with whether or not someone is classified as an in-state resident for tuition purposes or a non-resident for tuition purposes. Excess credit hours is and tuition rebate. Those are both state initiatives, that they're trying to accomplish of getting students in and graduated in a timely manner. So excess credit hours basically is something that students have a certain amount of hours they can take above and beyond what's required of their degree. If they exceed those hours, then they would be subject to out-of-state tuition rates because the state no longer funds those beyond that certain limit. Tuition rebate is kind of like a bonus. If a student follows their degree plan and they don't exceed a certain number of hours beyond that degree plan requirement, and it's within a certain time frame that they graduate, they could be eligible for a tuition rebate of, I believe it's $1,000. So that's an incentive again to come in and plan and graduate in a timely manner. Graduation, the registrar's office oversees and coordinates several commencement ceremonies for the university. And so there's a lot of logistics that go into that. They have a website, graduation.tamu.edu, that they post the graduation schedules when students should expect to participate in their commencement, you know, which college is going at what day and what time. But if there are questions, they do want those directed to them at that email address, graduation@tamu.edu. And then lastly, degree plan requirements. So the degree plan requirements, a degree plan is basically, if this is your major, here's a list of the requirements that you have to complete in order to graduate with that degree. So that we always defer to this for the student to contact their academic advisor. If there are questions or issues that are concerning them as far as what their requirements are to fulfill their degree plan, the academic advisor is where they will always need to have that initial conversation. So just reiterate that for your students. Okay. Student Business Services, often called SBS. So we do provide that customer service aspect on helping students understand the bill, students and parents, what some of the charges mean. They also have a list of what all the different charges mean on their website, the billing explanation. But it also, we can discuss payment options and processes, the due dates, and then also if they do have holds, registration holds, then perhaps it's a past due balance. It could be something that they need to address and take care of before they are allowed to register. We can advise them on what steps are needed to do that as well. Next. So again, admitted students, but also for continuing, Flywire is the platform that the university uses as their payment portal. And so that is also something just like the financial aid portal. There's an icon in the Howdy portal for payments and refunds, and that will direct the student to the Flywire payment portal. That's where they will see the tuition and fee billing statement. We do expect that fall 2023 billing statements to be released. I'm hearing early August. We're thinking maybe by the end of July, but it looks like more now early August. So I would stay tuned, have the students checking the online Flywire portal, because that will be when they should be able to see those, is early August. Fall 23 payment due dates. Right now, the first due date looks to be the Friday before classes, so I believe it's August 18th. And depending on it, so that's if you pay in full, you can pay it by that date. If you want to set up an installment plan, you can pay that first installment by the 18th and have the other installments auto drafted on the 18th of the following for 3 more months each month. So it's usually split into 4 payments. We also ask students to set up their direct deposits, banking information. Sometimes if you pay and then for whatever reason, the student drops a class or makes an adjustment, or there's a refund from the financial aid that may have been applied, we need to be able to get that refund to the student. And that's done through direct deposit based on the bank information that they set up in that Flywire portal. So I would encourage your students to make sure that they get that banking information set up so that anytime the university owes them a refund for whatever reason, it can get sent to them through direct deposit. And then authorized user, as a reminder, current or incoming students can go in through the Flywire portal and set up authorized users. So that could be parents. We've had spouses. We've had grandparents. They can set up and choose whomever they want to be an authorized user, which means that person can log in to Flywire, see the bill, pay the bill, all of those things. So if that's something that you need or have interest in, have that conversation with your child, your student, to have them update that. Reminder about tuition rate plans. This is more so for admitted students. As an admitted undergrad student, if you're in Texas, there's variable or fixed rate options to choose from. There's the variable, fixed is fixed for 4 years as when you come in, and then it would automatically change to variable after that if you are still a student after 4 years. They are working on the tuition calculator, which is an estimate of what you can anticipate to pay for in terms of tuition and fees based on the number of hours and major and all of those things. So I believe my understanding is the updated fall tuition calculator should be ready to go before the end of May, is when we're expecting to see something. Flat rate tuition is just a reminder that for undergrads, that you get, I guess, more bang for your buck, if you will, by taking 15 or more hours a semester. Because if you're taking 12 hours, 12, 13, 14 hours, it's still being billed at the 15-hour rate. So if you take 15 or anything above 15, say 18 hours, they're still only being billed at the 15-hour rate. So if it's less than, so 11 hours, 10 hours, 9 hours, it's still being billed at a different rate than it would be at the 15-hour full-time rate. Something new that A&M has partnered with GradGuard. It's a tuition insurance option that parents and students can consider. But if a student had to withdraw at some point for medical reasons or whatnot, it would cover certain expenses that the student might incur. And so there will be information about that presented to the students. It would be something, it's like an insurance company. So it's something that you would do with GradGuard separately. It's not through A&M per se, but we have partnered with them in terms of offering and making this option available to you guys to consider. Okay. Other thing to remember is, so there are some students that have third-party sponsorships, whether that be from students from out of state, out of the country, or you may have 529 plans or those prepaid tuition plans. Those actually get processed and coordinated through a different office. And so it's called specialized student billing. And the email address is ssb@tamu.edu. And so it's really important to communicate directly with that office about these types of plans so that the payment arrangements and certain notations on the account can be made in a timely manner in order to make sure that it shows that the student has one of these plans on their record and that the funds are coming from one of these other sources besides the student or a parent. Okay. Aggie card. So Aggie card is the official A&M ID. People, there's a swipe on there. So accessing certain buildings, swiping for meal plans, printing options on campus, all of that, they would need that A&M ID card. So students, to get their card, there's a My Aggie card online website, and they would go and they would upload their photo. And on that website, it kind of gives them a little bit of a description on, what they can and can't upload for consideration. Those photos get reviewed. Once they're reviewed and show approved, then students can come in, same building as where we're located, but they're on the second floor, suite 2801. And so anytime that status shows that it's been approved, they can come on down to the general services complex, second floor. I believe you have to bring, form of identification. Students have to pick it up. Parents can't pick it up for them. Just a reminder about that. Okay, and I know we're running out of time, but again, I would encourage you all to go to aggie.tamu.edu because we are compiling information from all of these areas and putting it on our website with Miss Rev, helping navigate that for you if needed. But by all means, use that contact us information that's on our website as well. If you have further questions or just even if it's not on something you find on our website, we will do our best to find and get you pointed in the right direction.
Okay, so I'm gonna give Melanie a little bit of a breather for a second. But I just want to also talk about, I know some of the people online are going to new student conferences this summer. So most of y'all are wanting to pick up your Aggie card during your new student conference. And so their office is open until 5 each day. So you can go and pick it up. We recommend you picking up your Aggie ID on the second day of your conference after you register for classes. You can just pick it up on your way out of town. So that's what we recommend. But we have a couple questions in the chat that we're going to go over. The first question, Melanie, is so their student is graduating this May from Texas A&M College Station. And they're confused if they should submit their undergraduate A&M transcript if they're going into a graduate program at Texas A&M.
Okay, generally that's not necessary. What they were, I believe, asked to do was to upload an unofficial copy of their A&M undergrad transcript. But if that's the only transcript or institution that they've attended, it wouldn't need to follow up with a official transcript from A&M to A&M for the grad program.
Great. And so you're just about to answer this question in typing format, but
Yes.
The dependency form is giving parents access. Is that a good thing for us to fill out for emergency situations?
So what this form does, it's for academic records. So it's not a medical release or anything that has to do, when you say emergency, it makes me think of hospitals and some things of that nature. It's not going to be something that for use for that purpose, for medical purposes or anything like that, for treatments and things of that nature. This is more to provide, FERPA protects student records, academic records. And so to be able to release academic records upon request, this would have to be on file to show that the student is your certified, a dependent of yours, to be able to provide you with some academic information, student record types of information. So hopefully that helps clarify.
And going along with the certificate for dependency, where do you find that form?
So if I answer live here or type answer, I can put the link of that form and send it. So it'll take you to a PDF page. It kind of gives you more explanation about the certificate of dependency, but there's a link there that the student has to initiate that because they have to log in with their net ID and password to create that DocuSign document. They have to DocuSign it. They are responsible for putting your name and email address on there and submitting it so that then routes to you all for you to then DocuSign before it comes to this office for processing and notating on the record. So I think I put the link in that response.
Yes.
And then does FERPA have to be filled out every year? So it doesn't have to be filled out even when they first enroll. It can be filled out their senior year. It just depends on the student and the parent's circumstances. And again, it's only to access or provide the parent the ability to request or have access to certain student records without the student's written consent, basically to every time you're asking for it. So, but once you do fill it out, it does tell the student that once it's filled out or once they certify themselves a dependent of their parent, that it remains on file unless they submit a written request to basically say that they're no longer a dependent of their parents or that they're no longer enrolled. So.
Great. And so the next question is, what is the EA-limited services on my student's bill? It just popped up today.
If that's something that we can, I would have to look. It's not something that's common that's popping up for me, but I certainly have the ability to take a look at a student specific situation. If you want to direct that email, what's the email address that they send it to again? I'm sorry.
You can email it to familyprograms.tamu.edu and we will forward it on to the Aggie One Stop office.
Yeah, I can certainly take a look at that and respond back.
Is every undergraduate student automatically on the flat rate tuition plan?
So undergrad, yes. I can pull up the website here just real quick. And sorry.
You're good. I'm going to go ahead and answer the question. Oh, you got it.
Yeah, you go ahead and answer if you want to skip to the next
one. So should they get their Aggie card this summer? So you can submit your Aggie card anytime through that website at my Aggie card, I guess .tamu.edu. And you can submit your photo and all that stuff, and you can either pick it up during the summer during your new student conference, as long as it's approved through the website, or you could pick it up when you get to campus in the fall. If they're if they're taking classes during the summer at A&M, I would recommend getting it when you start your classes in the summer.
So I put links to the flat rate tuition FAQ that's on the billing website. And it basically says if you're a undergrad student taking 1 to 7 credit hours a semester, then you're just charged based on the credit hours between 1 and 7. If you're part-time taking 8 to 11, you're charged based on 11 credit hours. So even if you're taking 8, you're charged for 11. Taking 11, you're charged for 11. Full-time students who are taking 12 or more will be charged at the 15-hour rate, basically. So 12, 13, 14 hours, you're still being charged for 15. Or if you do 15, 16, 17, 18, you're still only being charged for the 15. So that's why I say you get more bang for your buck, or you get the full value of that flat rate policy if you take at least 15 or more hours a semester. Let's see.
The next question is, do current or graduating A&M students continuing grad school at A&M have to get new Aggie cards for grad school? No, they do not.
Nope.
So again, they still have the same Aggie card. Probably has been updated since they got here 4 years ago, but it still works, still good.
Might be a different design on the card, but it's not a requirement for them to get another one.
Okay, the next question is, should we set up direct deposit for our parent bank account if it's providing all the expenses?
That's going to be a family discussion that the families make the determination. So the student is going to be required to submit bank account information for the direct deposit, whether that's a bank account that they have access to or the parents have access to. That's going to be a conversation and decision to make for you guys.
How do students allow parents for the parental portal to have access to their records?
They would go into the Howdy portal. There is a channel for parent portal access, and it should walk them through. It gives them information on how to do that. If not, if it's hard for you guys to find, if you go to howdy.tamu.edu, that's the Howdy login page. There's some tabs at the bottom, and there's steps or information about parent access that can give your parents some guidance on helping your student navigate that parent Howdy portal and help encourage them to grant your access. There's steps there as well.
The next question is, can your Aggie card be picked up prior to your NSC? Yes, it can, as long as you upload that picture and it's approved. You can go, if you're local to College Station, you can go ahead and go pick that up. Just look at the times of the General Service Complex when they're open.
Yep, that is true. In fact, if you want to come earlier, that's great. You may beat the crowd, So the question about our daughters covered under our own medical insurance, can this be removed from the TAMU charges? So I'm assuming if the student is being billed for, is it student health insurance? I'm assuming generally that's an option unless if they're a domestic student. If they're international, it's automatically charged unless the student submits a waiver request. And there is a waiver request information. It can be found on the iss.tamu.edu website. It's International Student Services website. And click on the student health insurance requirement. There could be potentially some waiver options available depending on the types of coverage. I think you have to submit, the details of what coverage they have, and they have to determine if that's sufficient. If it's not the International Student Services charge, then it should be an optional. Students have the option to elect student health insurance here, and they would just need to cancel that by the same means in which they signed up for it.
What was that or that address again?
ISS. So iss.tamu.edu is the International Student Services website. They have a link on there about the student health insurance.
So do parents access the Howdy portal? Is it different than the certificate of dependence access for records?
So Sarah, really, it is two different things. So the Howdy portal is more of a self-service. And I, depending on who you talk to, some parents prefer that, they just prefer to be able to log in. I know I have that. My kids are in elementary school, but they have a parent portal. I can log in and see certain things. So Howdy portal is going to be more self-service for the parent. Certificate of dependency is something that we have to flag on the student's record, so that if you called or emailed and said, hey, I'd like to know this information, yes, you should be able to see academic records on that portal if they grant you the access to it. But we wouldn't be able to give that to you and give you information upon request unless there was a certificate of dependency on file, if that makes sense. You would have to reach out to us and go through that process versus logging in on your own and using the Howdy portal.
Okay, so we have no more questions in the chat.
Okay.
But I am just going to go over a couple more resources, but thank you so much, Melanie, for coming to our web chat and answering all these questions. But just for us to stay connected, you can join our Aggie Parent and Family Facebook page. That's just where we put all of necessary information on there. And we also have our website, familyprograms.tamu.edu. And then we also have a Texas Ag link, which is a short link to our portal, which y'all all are on somehow because y'all came to this webinar right now. So we encourage y'all to do that as well. You can also always email us at familyprograms.tamu.edu, and we will answer any emails that come through there. But thank y'all so much for joining. We do have this is our last webinar for the semester. So look out for communication through campus, through the parent and family portal. And we will discuss the other opportunities throughout the summer and in the fall semester for other webinar opportunities. But thank you all so much for coming, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Hi, thank you.